The first time I attended the job change ritual, I actually stunned the guiding priest on the spot. All because this newbie me said I want to learn dark magic. The priest couldn't understand where a rookie like me dug up information on forbidden spells, but he still followed the rules and opened the ritual for me. And the reason I was determined to fall into darkness was because in my past life, I witnessed the terrifying presence of a necromancer. He alone, with his massive undead army, flattened an entire city. And in that previous life, I was also famous as the solo clear king. No matter how hard the dungeon, I could clear it alone. Yet after I accepted a friend's invitation to join his guild, they chose to sell me out for money. The mastermind behind it was Sewer, the one who had always been crushed by me. After seeing her scheme succeed, she came forward mocking me, saying she'd kick me out of the game. As long as I revived online, she would camp me with her people and kill me over and over. After my in-game death, I even received a real-world punishment, a 48-hour login ban. When I crawled out of the game pod, it felt like the sky had collapsed. Because this game, Absolute Warzone, was everything to me. As a full-time gamer, I knew nothing except this. And this game had an enormous impact on the entire world. In that game, I once became the solo clear king and earned massive wealth. But now, I was reduced to a useless loser again. Filled with anger, I immediately called my friend from the game, wanting an explanation. When he didn't pick up, I got up, ready to confront him in person. But because I was too furious, I crossed the street without checking the lights. And I ran straight into a truck. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back inside the game. And it was even the beginner tutorial map. Just when I was confused about what was going on, two players fighting a minotaur up ahead shouted, "Stop spacing out. Get up and help us defeat the boss and finish the beginner quest." After getting up, I first took a look around. Then I said, "Wasn't this minotaur removed 5 years ago because it was too hard?" The two in front asked if I'd been hit too hard. Isn't this game only 10 months old? Hearing that, something clicked in my mind, and I stepped forward to pick up the longsword on the ground. In the next second, under their shocked gazes, I charged alone at the minotaur. Seeing me rush in, it raised its weapon and swung down at me. But I dodged it easily with a single sidestep. Then, using the combat experience from my previous life, I circled around it and unleashed dozens of strikes in an instant. Before it could launch its next attack, I had already taken it down. The two behind me never imagined that the minotaur they couldn't defeat, even with a dozen people, was killed by me in one breath. Hearing that, they simply grinned. Then they walked up to me and asked if I wanted to join their guild. But in the next second, I answered with my longsword, splitting both of them in half with a single strike. In this life, if I still trusted humans, I'd be a dog. After completing the beginner quest, I logged out of the game first. When I woke up, I found myself inside the GamePod experience shop. And I remembered how 5 years ago, I had no money and could only come here to borrow equipment. After confirming that I had truly been reborn, I rushed straight toward the front desk. But when I handed over my bank card, saying I wanted to buy a GamePod, the receptionist told me the money in my account wasn't enough. I had been so excited just now that I forgot. I was still a broke loser. But starting to earn money now, there simply wasn't enough time. As long as I could log into the game, I could use my past life's experience and intel to quickly build up wealth. With no other choice, I took out a high-interest loan. Even though missing a payment meant losing a hand, I believed that with my strength, that would never happen. After all, I was the man known as the solo clear king. This time, those bastards would pay the price. Thinking of all that, I put on the helmet, and I returned to the game once again. As soon as I entered, a woman appeared in front of me, saying, "Congratulations on completing the beginner tutorial." Then she introduced herself as the one who assists adventurers with job selection, Ariadne. Seeing her familiar face, I couldn't help sighing. It had really been a long time since I was last here. She then opened her palm and began explaining. Players can choose from 3 basic classes, which are further divided depending on skill paths. After that, she recommended the warrior class, which uses melee weapons and provides an exhilarating combat experience. I had played warrior in my previous life. Although I was confident I could grow strong quickly, the class became difficult to solo in late-game dungeons. Then she recommended the priest class, which has healing abilities and buff skills. But before she could go into detail, I cut her off. I would never party with anyone again, not in this lifetime. Seeing me reject the first 2 classes, she selected mage for me. After the system notified me that I had chosen a basic class, it teleported me to the corresponding mage tower branch. An old man in front of me saw someone arrive and introduced himself as Jekko, the one in charge of mage class advancement. When he asked what kind of magic I wanted to learn, I immediately blurted out, "Dark magic." Hearing that, he went silent for a moment. Then he asked, "You mean that hype magic, the kind that gets people excited, right?" I emphasized each word. "No, dark magic." Confirming he hadn't misheard, Jekko asked in shock where I had learned about such magic. Dark magic was powerful, yes, but it could also destroy the user's soul. I told him I already knew all of that and came prepared, so please teach me dark magic. Jekko's hands began shaking uncontrollably. Then he suddenly ripped off his own face, revealing a skull beneath. While dark energy surged around him, he said it had been a long time since anyone chose this path. Then he summoned a magic book in front of me and told me to place my hand on it. He reminded me once more that I still had a chance to turn back. This road was extremely harsh for beginners, but I didn't want to hear any more. I pressed my hand down immediately. In that instant, I felt a strange power pour from the book into my body. The reason I was so determined to choose dark magic was because, in my previous life, I once saw a video of a necromancer player who soloed a boss dungeon with nothing but his undead army. That was exactly the kind of power I needed now. After my class change succeeded, the system notified me that I had obtained a skill called Skeleton Fragment. After activating it, a tiny skeleton appeared in my hand. When I tossed the little skeleton onto the ground, it quickly grew limbs and transformed into a skeleton warrior. Just as I was about to take it leveling with me, its head accidentally fell off. Looking at it like this, my silence was deafening. I remembered that summoned skeletons were not supposed to be this weak. With no other choice, I brought it to the beginner-only training dungeon. Once inside, I opened my status window. I wondered if the skill proficiency was just too low. Maybe I needed to level up first. Just as I had that thought, 3 jackals walked toward me, perfect for testing the skeleton's strength. So I activated Skeleton Fragment and threw it toward the wolf pack. When it hit the ground, the skeleton warrior manifested again. Seeing the enemies in front of it, it let out a loud roar. The 3 jackals were so startled, they started backing away repeatedly. I thought maybe I had underestimated this guy, so I ordered it to kill the jackals. After receiving the command, a faint blue glow flickered inside its hollow black eye sockets. Then it dashed forward with a sudden burst. I was even wondering if I should take it to higher level dungeons. When the next second, it got swatted into pieces by a single strike from the jackals. My mind went completely blank. Wasn't its entrance just now super intimidating? Why couldn't it even withstand one attack? Once again, my silence was deafening. Realizing something was wrong, I quickly opened the skill window again. After scrolling through, I found that at the bottom there were settings for the Skeleton Warriors mode. Turns out I had forgotten to set its mode. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. No wonder it couldn't even beat beginner monsters. After setting it to mode 1, defense, a faint blue glow flashed again in its hollow eye sockets. But the moment it rushed forward, it was once again bitten into a pile of scattered bones. And apparently, defense mode meant curling up on the ground holding its head. Unable to believe any of this, I quickly switched it to mode 3, special action. And this guy actually stood up and started dancing wildly, which made the jackals unusually excited. At that moment, my already tense heart completely cracked. How did things turn into this? When I planned to delete and restart, I realized characters created within 3 months couldn't be deleted. And next month, I had to start paying back the loan. I even wondered if I should go outside and get hit by a truck again. I really couldn't understand how that necromancer in my previous life managed to level up with this thing. When I opened the skill window again, I suddenly noticed something interesting. There was a hidden description saying the summon was equipped with a deep learning system capable of learning combat techniques. Earlier, when I couldn't stand watching anymore and killed the jackals myself, this little guy actually watched my moves and learned from them. Realizing this, the corner of my mouth curled into a sinister grin. I stood up and tossed it a wooden stick. In my previous life, my combat skills crushed professional players. This little skeleton had finally met the right owner. Just as it was confused about what I intended to do, I suddenly burst forward with a flash step, fist clenched, rushing right to its face. One punch sent it flying 2.5 meters away. When it got up again, I rushed forward and knocked it down with another punch. The skeleton warrior kept trying to learn every move I made, but it still couldn't block my attacks. After being punched flying who knows how many times, I told it that when an enemy attacks, it shouldn't just stand there like an idiot. It needs to think about its next move. Hearing that, the skeleton warrior brushed the dust off its face and nodded hard. After another round of my training, I brought it back to the jackal pack, and the moment they saw it, they lunged at us. This time, the skeleton warrior ducked low, dodging the first jackal's bite. Then, taking advantage of the opening, it swung the stick backward and hit the jackal on the neck. It immediately pulled the stick back and struck at another jackal. With two clean, simple moves, it took down both jackals without any hesitation. When the fight ended, it looked at me as if asking, was I awesome? I praised it, saying its attack just now actually looked a bit like mine. As the proficiency of the skeleton shard skill increased, my player level also went up by 1. After leaving the training dungeon, I headed to the beginner town, Figa's Castle. The place was noisy with people forming parties for dungeons or guilds recruiting members. A bit more training, and my skeleton should be able to solo a dungeon. Next, I needed to raise my level to 10, but at that moment, I wasn't paying attention and bumped into someone's shoulder. He turned around, grabbed me immediately, and demanded that I apologize. While I was debating whether to just kill him on the spot, he actually moved first and tried to attack me. But he was stopped by a burly man who appeared beside us. The burly man removed his sunglasses and said, "Brown-haired guy, how can you attack someone in the middle of the street?" The brown-haired man asked, "And who are you? Are you two working together or what?" But when I saw who the newcomer was, the corner of my mouth twitched uncontrollably. That solid, muscular build, and that strange outfit. I was certain he was the strongest warrior in the game, Matador Cheb. How could someone like him appear in a beginner village? Before I could say anything, the brown-haired man spat a thick glob of phlegm onto the ground, then cracked his knuckles loudly and told Matador not to meddle and to get lost. Seeing that attitude, Matador simply chuckled. The next second, he released a massive aura pressure, telling the brown-haired man to repeat what he just said. The pressure was so strong, it was practically materialized. Matador then asked, word by word, "You punched my hand just now, didn't you? So, can I return a punch as well?" Only then did the brown-haired man's lackey recognize who stood before them, Matador. The guild master of the Red Bull Guild, one of the top 30 elite guilds, rumored to fight with terrifying ferocity, a true battle maniac. The brown-haired man was about to ask why such a figure would be here, but Matador had already appeared behind him, asking whether he could punch him once. Hearing that, the guy was so terrified he almost passed out on the spot. There was no way he dared stay any longer, so he turned around and ran. Right after that, he patted my shoulder, telling me not to mind trash like that. But I simply stood up and left, telling him he didn't need to help me next time. Matador wanted to say something more, but I was already far away. Helplessly, he muttered that I was a hard guy to deal with. At that moment, I just wanted to leave the area as fast as possible. When he released his aura pressure earlier, I had actually been stunned by his presence. Next time we meet, I will never allow something like that to happen again. In the following days, I stayed inside the dungeon leveling up. During that time, the image of Matador kept replaying in my mind. If I wanted revenge, I had to reach his level. Just as I was deep in thought, a tiger leaped at me from behind. But before it could touch me, the skeleton warrior flew in from the side and knocked it away. And once it hit the ground, the skeleton warrior rushed in to finish it off. After killing the tiger, its level increased by 1 again. It took 3 whole days for it to reach level 10, much slower than I expected. The skeleton, who had been celebrating, instantly became depressed after hearing my comment. I wanted to comfort it, but at that moment, the system popped up a message. Since it had reached level 10, the training dungeon would no longer spawn monsters, and a reward was issued at the same time. Looking at the combat wristwatch in my hand, I thought, it finally came. Through it, I could check attributes, quests, maps, inventory, and all kinds of other information. It was an essential tool in the game. I first checked my status screen. There were 50 unassigned, free attribute points. Since this was my first time allocating points, I had to be cautious. Normally, a necromancer would prioritize intelligence or mana, but I put all 50 points into strength instead. After allocating them, my strength rose to 53, and instantly my whole body felt much lighter than before. The skeleton warrior watched my operation and showed an utterly shocked expression. Then it covered its face and quietly started crying. I didn't even need to guess what it was thinking. So I stepped forward and knocked its little skull with a punch, telling it I wasn't abandoning the necromancer path at all. Doing this was just to teach it better. Even if I increase magic and intelligence now, nothing will change. Only by maxing out strength can I teach you everything from my prime. At this point, I've practically bet my whole life on you, little guy. Hearing this, the skeleton burst into noisy, messy tears. Still, even with all points in strength, I have ways to compensate for the missing stats. Scene cuts to the Subjugation Association. Whenever a new quest is posted here, players swarm in, scrambling to grab it. But I walk to a deserted quest counter. The NPC warns me these quests are either extremely demanding or give pitiful rewards, so no one wants them. I scan through the list and find that most quests are indeed like he said. But I came with a purpose. When I spotted the quest I wanted, I took it immediately. The quest, Pegasus Mountain Cave, requires defeating monsters in the area and only rewards 10 gold coins. The NPC asks if I'm really taking such a time-wasting low-tier quest. I answer yes without hesitation. I know clearly that although the quest looks ordinary, if I complete it before level 15, I can obtain a top-tier rare title called Potential Stock, whereas normal titles only increase fixed stat values. But Potential Stock increases stats by percentage, which means my cheat-like life begins now. Before heading out, I decide to get some gear. Scene shifts to Pegasus Mountain, my quest location. I put on the gear I just purchased, but because I equipped my skeleton warrior first, I didn't have enough money left for myself and had to buy random clothes. Didn't expect them to look like this on me. But it's too late now. I have to focus, finish the quest quickly, and earn enough for real gear. With that, I dash deeper into the forest. Moments after I leave, someone crawls out of the bushes screaming for help. Behind the bushes hide 3 players with sly expressions. Soon another player arrives at Pegasus Mountain. Just as he's proudly celebrating reaching level 11 so fast, he hears someone shouting for help. He rushes over. The kneeling man claims they were attacked by high-level monsters. He barely escaped, but his friend is dying without recovery potions. The kind-hearted player opens his battle watch to find healing items. The man, teary-eyed, says he will repay him once they get out. The player keeps searching, unaware danger is approaching. A burly man raises a giant hammer behind him. The hammer falls, knocking the player to critical HP. The white-haired man, who was crying earlier, now smirks. Thanks for the gear. We'll make good use of it. Only then does the player realize he's been tricked. With almost no HP left, he can only watch them land the finishing blow. Upon death, his body dissolves into lines of code, but his battle watch remains on the ground. And just like that, the toxic PK group, known as the Ralph family, completes yet another perfect hunt. After putting the watch away, they stood up and went to look for their next target. Meanwhile, I entered battle as well, bringing my skeleton warrior along. The wolves here looked much stronger than the ones in the beginner training dungeon, but my skeleton warrior was no longer what it used to be. As I switched it to attack mode number 1, the skeleton warrior dashed forward and charged straight at the jackals. With just a single swing, it cut down 2 of them at once. The EXP here was also far higher than in the beginner dungeon. Each Deadwood Wolf granted 375 EXP when killed. Before this, it had only used a wooden stick, but after I bought it a sword, I didn't expect it to handle this entire pack of Deadwood Wolves on its own. I had to admire my brilliant decision-making. Prioritizing gear for the skeleton really was the right choice. For a veteran player like me, performance matters far more than cosmetic skins. After we cleared every Deadwood Wolf in this area, the skeleton glanced back at me with a pitying look, thinking my current outfit looked truly miserable. I told it not to slack off and to hurry up and grind with me. Only by leveling quickly could I replace the skin I was wearing. Hearing that, the skeleton jogged after me. Yet at that moment, a glint of cold light flashed from the nearby forest. The next second, an arrow shot out and struck the skeleton right in the head. Seeing this, I stopped walking and turned toward the source of the arrow. Then I saw 3 people walk out of the bushes, apologizing repeatedly and explaining they thought it was a monster, so they attacked. I didn't take the matter to heart and simply told them, "It's fine." But inadvertently, I noticed the blood-stained battle watch on one man's wrist, and the weapon strapped to the big man's back. Its bloodstains didn't look dry yet. In that instant, I understood exactly what they were planning. But on the surface, I still smiled and asked if they had any mana potions and if they could spare me one. The white-haired man said that although they didn't have mana potions, they could help me level up since leveling restores full mana automatically. I acted delighted and asked, "Really?" The white-haired man replied that it was their mistake anyway, so I shouldn't be shy. Coincidentally, a pack of withered wolves surrounded the area. The white-haired man turned and said they would bring the monsters down to low HP and then send them to me so I could land the last hit for the EXP. While rushing toward the monsters, he quietly repeated the operation plan to his teammates. Step 1. Grab the monster's aggro. Step 2. Once their attack boost buff is active, pretend to slip up and let the monsters charge at that idiot, and the defenseless me would die instantly. After completing the first steps, they waited to enjoy the scene of my misery, but the script didn't unfold the way they imagined. The charging withered wolf was intercepted halfway by my skeleton warrior. I gave him a thumbs up, praising their method, saying, "Let's keep going." Although they couldn't understand why my trash-looking summon was this strong, they still had a plan B. Attract a whole bunch of monsters aggro and dump them all on me. Then, while my attention was on the monsters, have the big guy sneak up behind me. But just a second before the big guy's meteor hammer came down, I lowered my head, and before he could react, I turned sharply. My smirk was as sharp as a blade. Next moment, blade followed body, cutting his weapon clean in half and slicing across his torso. With one clean strike, the brute collapsed, and the remaining 2 stared in disbelief at what had just happened. I didn't look back. I simply snapped my fingers. The skeleton warrior understood instantly, its eye sockets burning with fierce battle intent. I dashed toward the 2, and the skeleton mimicked my movements from the front. Knowing they stood no chance, they were just about to beg for mercy. But before they could speak, the skeleton's long sword had already fallen upon them. They looked as if they were seeing their great-grandma waving at them from across a river. The skeleton seemed to say, "Now you know who the real prey is," its unhurried posture toying with dying ants. My lips curled, voice colder than ice. "With just this level? You dare ambush the solo king? I know trash like you all too well. You only know how to backstab those who trust you, then drain everything from them. Had this been in my previous life, I might have really fallen for it." Seeing me walk forward, the white-haired man panicked and said, "Take all our gear. Just spare my life." But the current me will never believe humans again. I swung my sword and finished him. The system notified me. I'd obtained 8 unowned combat watches. I couldn't help but sigh. These guys were truly sick in the head, but leaving them here would be a waste. Better check if any of these are useful. As I looked up, wanting to ask the skeleton if it wanted anything, I saw it kicking the corpse, a faint excitement on its face. After gathering the gear, I repaired the damage on its skull and replaced the cheap armor it had been wearing. Seeing its new outfit, the skeleton hummed happily. I said, "It's just a change of clothes. Appearance doesn't matter in a game. What matters is inner strength." The skeleton glanced at my outfit, which was 100 times cooler than its own, and was speechless. After selling the other players' combat watches, random equipment appeared in my inventory, including rare items with bonus effects. This time I obtained a pair of black goblin pants, which increased both intelligence and mana by 5 points each, and also a sword that grants an extra 10 points of mana, as well as a skill book called Devil's Curse. But the most important part was the large amount of gold I earned. After the excitement passed, I opened my palm, and a mask appeared. With this set of gear, I acquired it much earlier than I had expected. In the future, I plan to record various strategy videos and upload them online, So having a unique style is important. In my previous life, after joining a guild, I even suggested that all guild members wear this Ha-Ho mask. Imagine how cool it would look when raiding together. I did think about changing my style completely, but I don't want anyone taking my things ever again. So I changed the appearance of the mask in my hand, then put it on my face and continued deeper into the forest. Soon we passed through the forest and reached the foot of Pegasus Mountain and entered the Pegasus Mountain Cave dungeon. In this dungeon, there are monsters known as blue werewolves. Although dealing with them was supposed to be troublesome, now that I have this gear, my goal is to clear the dungeon within 10 minutes. But 2.5 hours later, I was still inside because I had gone through almost every corner and still hadn't seen a single monster. If someone had cleared it, the system should have displayed a notification. This made me suspect maybe I encountered a bug. While I was troubled, my skeleton suddenly began slashing wildly at the wall. When I leaned closer, I found a mass of purple energy hidden inside the wall. And the moment I touched it, the entire wall collapsed, revealing a massive portal. The system notified me that I had discovered a hidden dungeon called Stage, asking whether I wanted to enter. Upon seeing the portal, I finally understood why there were no monsters here. A hidden dungeon is a one-time dungeon randomly generated inside a normal dungeon. Before clearing the hidden dungeon, the original dungeon won't activate. Although the hidden dungeon is extremely difficult, its rewards are increased accordingly. And one more thing, once you enter a hidden dungeon, aside from clearing it or dying, there's no way to leave. I told the skeleton that logically speaking, we should give up this dungeon because if we die, we won't be able to log in for 2 days. It's better to skip this and finish other quests instead. But I'm a man known as the king of solo runs. If I just don't die, everything will be fine. With that thought, I stepped into the portal with the skeleton. The moment I entered, a blinding light shot toward me. When my eyes adjusted, I looked around and realized this place resembled a gladiator arena. Just as I was guessing what kind of monster would appear this time, the ground beneath my feet suddenly shook violently. Looking up again, a gigantic werewolf dropped in front of me. My height barely reached its knee. The system identified it as a fallen werewolf, yet its level display was 3 question marks. I was still shocked about why this thing appeared here when its claws were already swinging toward me. At this distance, dodging was impossible, so I could only raise my sword to block. In the next instant, its overwhelming force sent me flying dozens of meters away. I slammed into the wall behind me before stopping. The skeleton immediately drew its sword and entered battle stance. But hanging on the wall, the corner of my lips curled into a grin. I didn't expect to be this lucky today. Aren't fallen monsters tied to the main quest? I stood up and told the skeleton, if we don't kill it today, you won't have anything to eat later. With that, I took my stance gripping my sword. Then I drew the blade, dashed forward, and charged straight at the werewolf. The skeleton stepped back and raised its long sword. Once I reached the front, I stepped onto the skeleton's sword, borrowed strength from its hands, and used my own leg power, launching myself high above the werewolf's head. The werewolf roared, lifting its claws to greet my fall. But while descending, I raised my hand and gathered mana in my palm, enchanting my sword with the Skill Devil's Curse. The werewolf finally sensed something was wrong, but it was too late to dodge. Its entire arm was cut off by my enchanted blade. More importantly, every time I dealt damage to it, an additional effect was applied, reducing its attributes by 10%. Although it was my first time using this skill, it felt pretty good. My move completely enraged the werewolf. After a painful howl, it took a heavy step and rushed behind me. At the same time, it cleansed all status effects. But I calmly slid my sword back behind me and said with excitement, good. As the boss of a hidden dungeon, you should have this level of power. Originally, I planned to save this skill for later, but since we've reached this point, I'll let you, Little Mutt Wolf, see ahead of time. With that, I twisted the watch and activated combat mode. The mask on my face instantly released a surge of black mana. The dark power soon formed a massive magic sphere that enveloped me completely. After slowly absorbing the energy inside the sphere, a sleek set of armor materialized over my body. Activating combat mode was one of the game's special functions. Once activated, It channels power from the absolute battle domain, temporarily granting the body a massive boost. The appearance and stat increase vary depending on the player's own attributes. Players like calling it finisher mode. After completing my transformation, I provoked the werewolf with a gesture. Seeing that, it threw aside all fear and was consumed by rage, roaring loudly. Its legs burst with power as it lunged toward me. Sharp claws extended from its one remaining hand. But from my perspective, its movements looked several times slower. I avoided every strike with ease. When I landed again, I noticed its speed seemed to be rising. With its attack values, 3 hits would be enough to kill me. Before the thought finished, it charged again, and the arm it lost had already regenerated. I drew my sword first, dashed forward, and carved a deep wound across its waist, then landed gracefully. Just as I said, now this is what makes a game fun. The ground beneath my feet cracked open, nearly making me fall. Turning back, I saw the werewolf had slammed the ground, splitting it apart. I almost forgot. It was in rage state now, unable to feel pain. Seeing me airborne, it rushed forward, reaching out to grab me. But it forgot I still had a summon. The skeleton warrior copied my earlier move and chopped its arm off once again. After landing, I shouted, "Skeleton, use the move we practiced before." It nodded in response. The werewolf thought we were preparing some powerful skill, but instead we simply circled around its body and moved behind it. Just as it tried to turn and continue the fight, dozens of heavy slashes appeared across its body. No matter how thick its HP bar was, it emptied instantly. Kill confirmed. I disengaged my combat mode as well. The quest card in my hand turned into gold light, indicating the mission was complete. My skeleton shard skill also leveled up to E rank. And with the hidden dungeon cleared, I earned over 20,000 gold coins, plus a werewolf skull and werewolf hide. Looking at the rewards in front of me, I sighed. No wonder they call this a hidden dungeon. Just as I finished saying that, the system notified me that I'd obtained a necklace, Chaser of the Fallen. According to its description, it was a one-of-a-kind item that boosts all stats by 18, but requires the Chaser of the Fallen title to equip. Seeing the unique item label, shock appeared on my face. But when I saw the equipment requirement, the shock in my heart exploded even more. The system also notified me of 3 new titles. Excited, I opened my title menu. The first was the one I planned to get, Potential Stock. The second was Challenger of Heroes, which made sense after solo clearing a hidden dungeon. But when I saw the third one, Chaser of the Fallen, my heart skipped a beat. Wasn't that the entry title for Chapter 1 of the main storyline? The Fallen Count? That main storyline is the core quest that builds the world of Absolute Warzone and pushes the plot forward. Because its rewards are unimaginably huge, every player wants a piece of it. In my previous life, I only barely qualified for it in the late game. Yet now, at the very start, I already got it. This wasn't just luck, this was hitting the jackpot. After logging out that night, I browsed the game forums and happened to see that a guild called Hydra Guild had already reached the final chapter of the Fallen Count storyline. Their goal was to clear it within 3 months. I thought I had struck gold this time, but they were already at the final chapter. Even if I joined now, I wouldn't get anything out of it. Helpless, I could only give up and focus on the next chapter. But then something flashed in my mind, and I suddenly stood up. The whole world was hyped about the Fallen Count. Everyone believed the first main story quest of Absolute Warzone was about to be cleared. If I release a video related to the Fallen Earl at this timing, it'll definitely rake in tens of millions of views. In this era ruled by traffic, that's all pure money. Luckily, I always keep full session recording on when I play, so all I need now is a quick edit before uploading. Speaking of editing, I already have the perfect person in mind. In my previous life, she was known as the god of editing, Ramani. When Ramani received my request to collaborate on editing a level 15 dungeon clearing video, she was completely dismissive. She thought a level 15 newbie clearing a dungeon could never produce anything worth watching, probably just a rich idiot showing off online. But once she opened the video and saw the first shot, she was instantly captivated. After watching a bit more, she stood up from her chair and shouted, "Impossible!" A brief shock later, her mind went blank, and that blankness was soon filled with explosive excitement. Scene shift to a massive floor-to-ceiling window. A long-haired woman called her executive over, saying someone had just uploaded a video about the fallen Earl. A level 15 newbie apparently managed to solo kill a fallen werewolf. The executive explained their team had verified it, but since that fallen werewolf's level was low, they didn't pay much attention. The woman cut him off. "I'm very interested in that person. I want him, so bring him to me." This woman's name was Kai Shuing, the heiress of Thunderstorm Group, standing at the very peak of the financial world. And in my previous life, she was the same woman, Sol, who bought off my guild after I crushed her in-game. The next day, after I logged out, I looked at my phone and was shocked, because the video I uploaded just yesterday already had 6,000 views. In my previous life, it took months to reach 6,000. Right then, I received a message from Ramani. She actually reached out to me first. Unlike my past life, when contacting her was almost impossible, after a few lines of chat, I suddenly had the urge to block her. Why does she feel like a middle-aged gaming noob? Then she asked, "On Jaehyun, when's the next video?" I didn't even know what the next one would be, but it had better wait until I hit level 50. With that in mind, I powered up the game pod again, entering absolute warzone once more. Meanwhile, Matador was rewatching my video over and over. No matter how many times he watched it, he thought my mechanics were insane. But the more he watched, the more familiar I looked to him. A tall woman walked up. Matador called her Yeel. He said a guy wearing a Ha-Home mask, name's Hilkin, had become pretty famous lately. Yeel just said, "You watch too many videos. Everyone looks familiar to you." Matador leaned back, saying most people, the first time entering this hyper-realistic game pod, moved timidly, but that guy didn't hesitate at all. And he even trains his summon to grow stronger. Plus, his skeleton is totally different from other necromancers. I'm really curious how a duel with him would feel. Yeel finally couldn't listen anymore and cut him off directly. Then she shoved him hard, saying if you're going to waste time talking nonsense, you might as well go in now. Only 5 minutes left before you're on stage. Before going up, he threw Yeel a flirty wink and said, "I've always been grateful to you. You know that, right?" Yeel replied, "If you're grateful, then perform well today. After all, 200,000 people bought tickets. All just to watch you." The representative of Red Bull and rank 9 of Absolute Battle Domain, Matador. When Matador stepped onto the stage, the portal in front of him opened. He drew the large blade from his waist and told all team members to prepare for combat. The scene then shifted back to the Subjugation Association. When I arrived here, I was completely stunned. There wasn't a single quest available. I had mentally prepared for a shortage of quests, but I never expected there would be nothing except weed pulling and lost dog requests. Not even one proper quest. Does this mean I have to stop updating my videos for now? The NPC who previously assigned quests to me walked over and greeted me. Hearing that voice, I instantly perked up. The old man introduced himself as Houghton and asked, "Can we talk for a moment?" After bringing me into a room, he said he heard I saw a mutated monster in the caves of Pegasus Mountain. I thought, what's going on? There's an event like this? Then I told him I did see a werewolf with strange eyes. Houghton turned his head and said, "What you encountered was most likely a creature corrupted by the Fallen." Hearing the word Fallen, my heart jumped. Houghton continued, "Although the culprit's true identity hasn't been revealed, it's certain that someone's power drove the monsters mad and caused major harm. That's why the association is issuing a bounty." Before he finished, I grabbed his wrist and said, "I will definitely capture that adorable. No, I mean that awful villain." My heart was beating like crazy. This was a legendary hidden quest. Seeing my desperate excitement, Houghton tried to stay calm and said, "With your current level and strength, you can't complete this." I instantly argued, "I can handle it." He said, "You can't." I insisted I can. Back and forth. "You can't handle it." "I can." "You can't." "Please, big bro, I really can." Finally, he sighed and said, "Fine. Depending on your performance, we'll decide whether to assign you the task. On the east side of Figus City, in Bond City, there's someone named Ashembri. He'll guide you. I'll write you a recommendation letter." As soon as he finished, a quest window popped up before my eyes. The quest was called Ashembri's Guidance. The objective was to deliver the recommendation letter, and the reward was a skill book. The moment I stepped outside, I couldn't suppress my excitement anymore and shouted at the sky. I couldn't believe I actually got this quest. After all, this Ashimbri NPC is one of the 7 students of Archmage Birkin. He owns a huge number of rare skill books. Every mage player dreams of meeting this super important NPC. I guess it must be the overlap of my potential rookie title and the Fallen Count storyline that created this opportunity. But before heading out, I still had one important thing to take care of. With that in mind, I found an empty forest clearing where no one was around. Then I summoned my little skeleton warrior. I told him that we still hadn't used the loot we got from the last battle. Saying that, I took out the werewolf skull. I used it right away to strengthen the skeleton warrior, raising his solidity attribute by 2 points. Then came the main event. I pulled out the chaser of the fallen necklace. After that, I put the chaser of the fallen necklace on myself. All my stats increased by 18 points, and my class-related stats were boosted as well. Under the skeleton warrior's confused stare, I used the skeleton fragment skill again. This time, I threw out 2 small skulls, and when they hit the ground, they turned into 2 identical skeleton warriors. Skeleton minion number 1 froze on the spot the moment he realized he wasn't my only one anymore. I told him to get along with the 2 newcomers. Starting now, the 3 of them would be acting as a team in battles. At that moment, minion number 1 felt like his whole world had collapsed. Going deeper into the forest, I encountered a level 25 forest giant bear. The moment it saw me, it charged straight at me. But I didn't intend to fight back. I just kept dodging, and soon it forced me into a dead corner. Just as it was about to land the finishing blow, I felt I'd drawn enough aggro, so I snapped my fingers. A split second later, a skeleton warrior leapt from a nearby tree onto the bear's head. But before it could attack, the bear slapped its palm right onto the skeleton's face. With a heavy smack, the skeleton shattered instantly. I sighed helplessly and said, "With such obvious movements, of course it won't work. You have to attack from the blind spot of the monster's vision." After saying that, another skeleton warrior rushed in, only to get slapped away just like the previous one. Seeing this, I was so furious that I started shouting, "How many times have I told you? Attack from the blind spot, and yet you still line up to throw yourselves at it." Even the forest giant bear was stunned by my yelling. When the timing felt right, skeleton number 1 struck a pose and made a dazzling entrance. Lifting its arm, the cracks in its joints shining brighter than stars. Its soul-fire eyes blinked twice as it elegantly brushed dust off its ribs, like it had just finished a dislocated version of ballet. Seeing that, my heart thumped and my cheeks turned pinker than petals, like a rabbit being chased by bees. In the next instant, the skeleton warrior leaped into the air. Like a burst of lightning, it swung its sword and shot toward the giant bear like a turquoise meteor. The eye sockets flared with a firm, ghostly blue, and with a casual slap from the forest giant bear, its head flew off like a basketball. My face went from pink to white to red. I was furious. In the end, I had no choice but to finish off the forest giant bear myself. After the battle, I made all 3 of them hold their own heads while kneeling in front of me. Then I started teaching them. When a monster gets attacked, it will definitely turn toward the attacker. That means its back is the blind spot. You just need one of you to slip behind it and launch a sneak attack. But all 3 skeletons gave me confused looks. It gave me a headache. After upgrading my skill, and with the chaser of the fallen necklace, I could summon 3 skeletons. But none of them understood teamwork, even though they could share previously learned moves. I was only one person, so I never taught them how to coordinate. Now, I was wasting 3 times the mana and getting worse results. I sighed, thinking I might as well stop. Since I'm already level 20, I should focus on uploading new videos instead of fighting. Before arriving in Bont City, I need to put them through some hell-level training. I thought being a necromancer meant my summons would auto-hunt while I walked behind picking up loot. But it seems I'm still destined to be the one fighting on the front lines. The scene shifted to the Subjugation Association in Bont City. The place was almost full when someone came out from the second-floor room. The people downstairs swarmed him like maniacs. They kept shouting, asking what quest he received. Watching them, I couldn't help thinking they were like starving hyenas. But in every place, there are always people who want rewards without doing the work. I had barely stepped inside when someone came over asking if he could join me if I got a good quest. I simply told him, "Scram." Then I headed straight toward the second floor. I absolutely couldn't let anyone know I was doing a Shembri's quest. After climbing the stairs, I pulled out Hutton's recommendation letter. The NPC at the stairway checked it and let me through. The starving crowd saw someone getting a quest and tried to rush in like mad dogs, but the NPC blocked them all. I hadn't even entered yet and was already getting excited about the rewards. This time, I had to cling tightly to this golden thigh and leech everything I could. When I opened the door and stepped inside, my eyes instantly cleared. The entire room was packed with magic books, chaotic, messy, but beautiful. A voice came from within the piles. "Who are you?" "I don't remember making any appointments today," he added. I hurried forward, bowed, and handed over Hutton's recommendation letter. After reading it, a Shembri said I seemed to be an apprentice dark mage, and that my strength wasn't bad. Then he raised his hand to give me the reward. The system notified me that I'd received 2 skill books, Bow and Armor and Mad Warhelm. I didn't expect him to give me 2 at once, and both looked extremely rare. I thanked him repeatedly, but after giving me the skills, he simply turned around and left. The system popped up a quest complete message. According to my expectations, this should have triggered a follow-up quest. I suffered all the way here, not for just 2 skill books. So I rushed after him, begging a Shembri to give me another chance and saying I was willing to do anything. Hearing that, a Shembri quickly turned, grabbed my hand, and asked, "Anything?" After I confirmed it, he flashed a creepy smile and said, "Thanks." Right then, the system notified me of a new quest, Egg in the Nest. The objective was to find the egg in a nest with no reward. I instantly felt scammed. Meanwhile, on a street somewhere, a fully armored man walked by, drawing everyone's attention. They recognized him. His gear was insanely expensive. After arriving at the Subjugation Association, he muttered, "Is the Haho mask here?" After accepting the quest, I walked out of the room. I couldn't believe I'd been tricked by an NPC. I thought I'd get a main story quest. Why send me to look for some egg? And the reward is literally nothing. Crying, I asked, do I really have to finish this quest? But before I finished speaking, someone suddenly appeared in front of me, asking what quest I had just mentioned. The moment the crowd heard I had received a quest, they all rushed at me and tackled me to the ground. Just as I was wondering whether I should simply get rid of these annoying people, a man in full armor rushed in and blasted everyone around me away. He then walked up to me and asked, "Do you have a moment? I'd like to talk somewhere quiet." Not knowing his intentions, I told him to get lost, but he leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Please cooperate." "Haho mask, sir." Hearing him say that, my heart jolted violently. To figure out what was going on, I followed him into a narrow alley. Seeing no one around, the man manipulated his battle watch and removed his helmet. Judging for his gear, he was easily a high-tier player, but when I saw his face, I couldn't recall anyone like him. When he asked if I was the Haho mask, I decided to play dumb and test him. "That whatever Haho mask you keep talking about, who's that supposed to be?" He then asked, "Didn't a Shembri give you any task just now?" I replied, "I'm already annoyed from being dragged here for no reason. Why should I answer your pointless questions? If you want to fight, then bet your account and duel me." After saying that, I stared at him, waiting to see how he'd react. Unexpectedly, he apologized and held out his left hand. I paused for about 2.5 milliseconds, then extended my left hand and shook his. As I walked away, I added, "Only this once. I'm letting you off. Every kind of weirdo is coming to bother me today." Once I exited the alley, a woman in purple suddenly appeared beside him. She said, "Looks like we got the wrong person." The man took out a handkerchief and wiped the spot I touched. At least we can confirm he's not a skilled player. Anyone who's been in absolute domain long enough would never expose the hand wearing their battle watch. The woman then asked, "Should we continue monitoring a Shembri? The Fallen Count quest is almost over anyway. Even if people find out that Egg in the Nest is the real main quest, it won't change anything." The man pushed up his glasses slightly and said it was better to stay cautious. But they didn't expect that after I walked out, I immediately climbed up to the second-floor window. I couldn't hear clearly, but it was obvious they were looking for me because of the quest I just accepted. When I returned to the forest to continue training my skeletons, a headache hit me. If I went to do that quest, I'd definitely run into those annoying people, but if I didn't go, I'd have no materials to update my videos lately. In the end, I chose to check the situation first. So I brought the skeleton warriors with me to the lizard marsh. I had accepted the quest in Bonsai City, which meant the quest area should be nearby. And judging from the word egg, it was likely a place with birds, reptiles, or insects. After comparing locations, only the lizard marsh matched the conditions, and my level could enter it. Before entering, I called my skeletons over. I prepared to use the new enhancement skill I'd learned, Mad War Helm. The moment I finished chanting the spell, the skeleton's blue eye flames instantly turned blood red. To test this skill's power, I had the skeleton charge at me, but I had missed a small line of text. After using this skill, summoned beasts have a chance of losing their sanity. The next second, the skeleton, whether out of instinct or because of my command, lunged toward me with a roar. My heart tightened at the sight, but before it could touch me, I knocked its head off with an uppercut. I shouted angrily, "I told you to charge. Why are you screaming?" The other skeleton beside it was so terrified it shook in place. Seeing no change after using the skill, I thought maybe the system had bugged, when suddenly several lizard men leapt out of the water behind me. Seeing them, I thought this was the perfect chance to test my two new skills. So first I used Mad War Helm on the three skeletons again, boosting their stats by 1.2 times. Then I used bone armor to arm them. With all the enhancements, their aura became completely different. Even the level 30 lizard men unconsciously stepped back. At my command, the skeletons shot forward like arrows and charged the lizard men. The one in front didn't even react before its neck was slashed open, and the lizard man behind quickly raised its axe to block a skeleton's attack. But the third skeleton had already slipped behind it without a sound. The lizard man turned around just in time to see a cold sword flash cut through its body, and the last lizard man was split in half by a jumping strike. When the fight ended, the three skeletons knelt before me to report. The system notified me that I'd killed 3 lizard men and gained 864 points. Watching this, I thought it was amazing not having to fight myself. My hard training had finally paid off. After the excitement passed, I ordered them to search for the egg inside the nest with full effort and to continue hunting. However, everything that just happened was seen clearly by a woman hiding in the shadows behind me. Watching my back, she couldn't help but lick her lips. This woman's name was Yelia. In her own mind, she was an unrivaled beauty capable of toppling nations, and the simps chasing after her were countless. As long as she acted pitiful for a moment, someone would immediately rush over to help. But the moment she arrived in this lizard marsh, she fell flat on her face. After getting up, she immediately started complaining about this annoying trash map. Originally, she was brought here by one of her simps, hoping to farm monsters and level up. But that simp didn't even see a single monster before getting killed by the swamp itself, leaving her trapped here. And with her own strength, she completely couldn't handle the high-level lizard man. Just as she was feeling helpless, she suddenly heard fighting in the distance. As she approached, she saw the scene of me using skeletons to kill 3 lizard men. She thought fate hadn't abandoned her. She now had a new slave simp to order around. Then she pretended to be weak and jumped out of the bushes. She said she'd been injured by a monster and wanted my help. She believed no man could reject the tears of a pure and helpless girl. But what she didn't expect was that I simply glanced at her before turning away with my 3 skeletons to leave. No matter how she shouted, I continued walking forward without being moved at all. This made her feel utterly incredulous. Being ignored, she bit her lip so hard it bled from anger. After I left, I continued hunting with my skeletons. Unexpectedly, this woman not only followed me the whole way, but kept acting pitiful and whining nonstop. Annoyed, I could only keep ignoring her existence. But she clung to me like a piece of sticky dogskin plaster. I suspected she was probably the same type as the group who ambushed me earlier. Thinking that, I decided to end things quickly and get rid of this trouble. So, I turned around and asked her what she needed me to do. Yelia said that she had dropped a sword in the swamp while hunting and asked if I could get it for her. Hearing me agree, she showed an excited expression and bowed repeatedly in thanks. But inside she was thinking that I had finally taken a bait. After walking with her for a bit, I saw the sword she mentioned. I then told her that once I fetched the sword, she should stop bothering me and get lost. Hearing her agree, I ordered the skeletons to retrieve the sword. But as soon as the skeletons moved forward, her expression darkened. Her whole goal was to lure my summons away, because a necromancer without summons is basically trash. Thinking this, she drew a short blade and stabbed toward my back, not knowing I was a necromancer who dumped all my stat points into strength. The moment she moved, I'd already sidestepped. At the same time, I grabbed her by the clothes and threw her forward with force, directly tossing her into the swamp pool. When she stuck her head out, she cursed at me, calling me a bastard. She shouted that after doing this, did I think I could stay safe? Once her personal guards came, they wouldn't let me go. I just covered my mouth and lightly laughed, telling her to look behind her. Confused, Yulia turned around and found 3 lizard men had appeared behind her. With no choice, she stopped cursing me and began wrestling with the lizard men. I made a face at her and said I had already seen through her little trick, idiot. And when I reincarnated, I had already sworn never to trust humans again. After dealing with things, I told the skeletons to continue hunting, but when I turned my head, I saw them imitating that woman's seduction act. Helpless, I punched each one and warned them not to learn weird things. I had just walked a few steps when I received the notification that Yulia had died. Since I wasn't the one who killed her, I hadn't expected anything, but surprisingly the kill reward was given to me. What a profit. At the same time, I remembered what she said about her personal guards. But thinking again, how could someone like her have any personal guards? Little did I know that in a dark room somewhere, what I'd done to Yulia was being watched on repeat. And at the same time, my nemesis from my previous life, Kai Shuian, slowly woke up from her gaming pod. Her secretary hurried forward with water and asked how the guild's rookie test went. Kai Shuian snatched the water and said they were all trash, not a single usable person. She then asked whether the forum user Hahomask had replied. The secretary said she had messaged him but got no reply. Maybe he joined another guild. Hearing that, Kai Shuian crushed the bottle in her hand. With a murderous glare, she told the secretary she didn't want to hear maybe. The secretary quickly said she would confirm again. The scene cut back to the lizard swamp. I had just killed a player who tried to ambush me. Even before dying, he muttered that he would avenge Miss Yulia. Seeing him like that, I really couldn't understand. Why go this far for a woman? Does she date you after you die for her? The man laughed weakly, then raised his head and said, "This is love." Before he could finish, I sent him to meet his ancestors. These so-called pure love warriors were basically brain-rotted. Ever since I killed that woman named Yulia, she went back, crying to her so-called personal guards, saying she only wanted help but was bullied by a necromancer, then stopped halfway. After hearing this, all her simps were furious, causing me to get jumped by them constantly while hunting. I was already annoyed from failing to find the quest clue, and they still stuck to me like pests. But fortunately, every time I kill them, they drop battle watches. And from this one, I got over 5,000 gold, a goblin leather boots, and a rare item, the Oath necklace. Selling it would probably fetch around 800k. That instantly made me take back all the insults I said. They can keep coming. If they bring loot, then love truly is the greatest power in the world. As I was still enjoying the moment, another guy ran toward me and shouted, "He's here." I turned and said, "That's right. I'm the bastard who killed Miss Yulia." But halfway through my sentence, I froze. All the revenge crowd had gathered in one place. Even though I was the solo king in my previous life, I still knew you can't fight dozens of people. I turned around and ran without hesitation. While running, I glanced back at their numbers. Close to 100 people. Was that woman really that charming? Running like this would only make more join the chase. So I ordered the skeletons to block their path. The man in front said it matched the intel, and the chubby guy nodded knowingly. Then dashed forward and chopped off all of my skeletons' heads with one skill. With this level gap, fighting head-on was impossible. I'd have to level up first before getting revenge. After running a bit more, I stopped to catch my breath. Even though my past life movement skills helped me shake them off for now, their level was much higher. They'd catch up soon. Just as I was about to keep running, I sensed something strange. I turned and noticed this part of the swamp looked different from the rest. I'd searched Lizard Swamp for days, yet never once seen this kind of black swamp. But this gave me an idea on how to deal with that mob chasing me. Sure enough, they followed my trail and arrived shortly after. The sharp-eyed fat guy spotted my skeletons first and shouted for everyone to stop. They all looked toward where he pointed. There was a glowing orb floating mid-air, and beneath it, my 3 skeletons were passionately dancing. That sight completely broke their brains. After staring for a while, the fat guy reacted first, thinking that hurting Yelio wasn't enough. I was now humiliating them with this ridiculous scene. Fueled by anger, he dashed straight toward the skeletons in the swamp. But halfway through, something massive burst out of the swamp and interrupted him. Before he could even see what it was, a long tongue wrapped tightly around him. The rest finally saw the creature clearly and trembled in fear, because standing before them was the boss of the lizard swamp, the level 40 dragon lizard. Hiding behind a tree, I smirked. So the nest mentioned in the quest was the dragon lizard's nest. As a map boss, the dragon lizard had insane defense, HP, and attack. Normally, you need a team of 20 level, 40+ players to defeat it. Technically, the dragon lizard raid event had ended, so it shouldn't appear again. But if a player with a linked quest enters the designated area, the monster respawns, which told me this was exactly where my quest wanted me to go. But thinking about it, I was only level 20. That NPC actually wanted me to fight a level 40 dragon lizard and bring its egg back. Impossible. What kind of insane scam quest did that psycho NPC give me? But now, with these guys here, things are different. Knowing they weren't the dragon lizard's match, the group ordered a retreat. But how could I let prey slip away? With a snap of my fingers, my skeletons blocked their escape path, just as one of them tried to force his way out. The dragon lizard charged forward and sent him flying. While its attention was on them, I circled around to its back and slipped into its nest successfully. But the moment I went inside, I froze again. It was completely empty, no sign of an egg at all. Unwilling to believe it, I searched every corner. In the end, I only found a suspicious-looking stone. Among everything here, only this stone vaguely resembled an egg. Before I could think further, a notification popped up. My skeleton warriors had been destroyed. It seemed the lizard drake had sensed its nest was invaded and was rushing back. Sure enough, in a moment it returned and let out a piercing roar. Fortunately, I escaped just in time and wasn't discovered. Now that the lizard drake had returned, I couldn't investigate any further. At this point, right or wrong, I could only take this thing back and try my luck. After leaving, I didn't return to the banquet immediately. First, I want to find the pure love warriors who had been beaten half dead by the lizard drake. Then I squatted down and took the battle watches from their wrists. Seeing this, one of them tried to speak, but a long sword planted in front of him shut him up instantly. I warned him, even if this is just a game, I do not want it next time. Otherwise, I have plenty of ways to make you and that woman experience death over and over again. Seeing the killing intent in my eyes, the man collapsed to the ground, not daring to say another word. I continued harvesting the remaining battle watches from the pure love warriors. I'd already said this much. If they still pushed me, then it would only end in mutual destruction. Next, I decided to make some extra cash. I contacted the Bunts Guild, told them the lizard drake had respawned in the swamp, and offered to sell its nest location for 100,000 gold. After finishing all that, I finally brought the stone to turn the quest. On the way, my heart was pounding. I hoped this was really the egg he wanted. When Ashimbri saw what I brought, he leaned in to examine it carefully. My heart was practically in my throat. Fortunately, it really was the egg he was looking for. Hearing that, the huge weight on my chest finally dropped. Then he said, "I thought someone of your level would take a long time, didn't expect you to find it so quickly." I gave an awkward laugh and replied, "I did my absolute best. So hurry up and give me the next quest." But Ashimbri ignored that and asked whether I knew what this thing really was. He said their investigation confirmed that these eggs were always found near vicious, mutated monsters, so the egg was called the Fallen Stone. The moment I heard that name, my heart trembled, and I instantly understood why that person came looking for me. This Fallen Stone was a key item tied to the main storyline. Its future role could affect the entire plot direction. So of course they didn't want it falling into anyone else's hands. I never expected the actual main quest item to already be in my hands. Seeing me silent, Ashimbri apologized and said he'd known this quest was difficult for me. But since our enemies were powerful, unknown figures, he needed to test me. Finally, he asked, "Do you think you can resist the Fallen?" Being part of the main storyline meant sticking a straw into an endless fountain of gold. There was no way I'd miss that chance, so I agreed immediately. But he told me I wasn't ready yet. The monster's levels were absurdly high, so such matters couldn't be entrusted to a low-level newcomer like me. I guessed it was because of my low level, and just as I was about to argue, Ashimbri turned away and said, "Please accept me as your mentor, Great Archmage Ashimbri." If I could say those words, he would train me.